just about halfway done. I need you to just bear with me. This is your algebra tutorial. It's a crash course on everything algebra. I won't be able to teach you all there is to know about algebra. You won't just ace this class, but you will have a better understanding of algebra and how you will need it going into geometry. Like everything you learned before you got to algebra, you had to bring it to algebra, and you're going to have to use it. Now, everything you learn here in algebra, you're going to have to go to geometry, and you're going to have to use it. Everything you learned in algebra, and you'll take your geometry to algebra 2, and you'll take that to trigonometry, and it'll just keep going until you get to college algebra, which is pretty much the same thing, but it's just on a whole nother level to where you're almost right there at like some quantum physics type of thing, where we're looking at sacred geometry and we're understanding exactly why everything is the way it is. So let's move on. We're halfway through it. Let's go ahead and get through this thing. Joe is lending Frank $500, and Frank has 4 years to pay it back. Man, that sounds like the bank. It sounds like Joe is the bank. Joe is lending Frank $500. Frank has 4 years to pay it back. See, you got to relate this to money. Relate this to your money. Next time you loan somebody something, and make sure you charge them interest. Because Joe is charging Frank 6% interest. And interest accrues every year. So you get 6% every year. 6% of that 500. Frank wants to determine how much interest he'll pay over the 4 years. He sets up the formula like this. Interest, I, equals the loan amount, L, the rate, R, times time, T. So find I. So I have I equals L times R times T. It sounds simple, right? L times R times T. So the interest is what we're looking for. The loan amount, which is L, is 500. The rate is 6%. And how do we write percent in decimal form? Yes, instead of 6%, it will be 0.06. 0.06. And then that time is 4 times 4 years. Yeah, so I went ahead and I said, okay, the interest equals the loan, which is 500, plus the rate is 0.06 times the time, 4. I said, okay, what is 500 times 0.06? 500 times 0.06. That ended up being 30. And then I said, okay, that has to go times 4, which is the time, times 4 years. 30 is just 1 year. So it's $30 per year in interest. So he'll end up paying $120 in interest back. We're just looking for the interest. And how you figure out how much he paid total. You take that 120 and you add the 500 that he originally borrowed. He originally borrowed 500. He had to pay $120 in interest because it was 4 years. And that gave him a $620 bill once he had to pay it. And this next one may be a little tricky, but hopefully you won't see something like this unless you see multiple choice answers. Because if you don't know anything about, okay, in V equals 2m minus 3, V is which of the following? It's like, okay, now you have to have multiple choice, but just thinking about our definitions. What is -3? -3 is a constant. What is 2m? 2m, just the term 2m by itself. 2m would be considered a coefficient. Coefficient. 2 is the coefficient. M is a variable. What kind of variable? It is an independent variable. So now we're talking independent variables and dependent variables. V, what is V? V is a variable that could actually stand for variable, or it could mean velocity. Just depends. Like velocity has its own formula, and it'll say V equals speed times, just like that. Speed times acceleration times force, all of that good stuff. I just know velocity will have its own formula, and this is not it. So this V means something totally different. And luckily we have the multiple choice. So your choices are A, constant, B, dependent variable, C, independent variable, or D, exponent. Well, V is not an exponent, because an exponent is what? It raises the power, which is actually called a superscript. It's written at the top. A subscript is written at the bottom. Superscript is written at the top. Exponent. Okay, so a constant would just be a number, right? Coefficient would be a number and a letter. So a letter by itself would be a variable. What kind of variable? This one is a dependent variable because it depends on what m is. Now I could say m is 6, and it would be 2 times 6, 12 minus 3. So V would be 9. I can say m is 9. 18 minus 3, V would be 15. And yes, so that last slide, V was definitely a dependent variable because it depended on what 2m was, whatever the m was in 2m. So now we have another one. In B equals 3 plus 4w, 3 is which of the following? Now it'll be the same thing. Now we're looking for is it a coefficient? Is it a dependent variable, independent variable? Is it a exponent? What is it? It's a constant. 3 standing by itself is a constant. Any number standing by itself is a constant. It's an integer. Yes, along those lines. What's a coefficient? A coefficient is a number and a letter together. 4w is a coefficient. 4w, the w is an independent variable because it doesn't depend on anything but itself. The b is the dependent variable. It depends on what that w is. You understand that? Yeah. Okay, so the next one says V equals B dt. Solve for D is in David. So I have V for Victor equals B is in boy, D is in David, T is in time. B dt. Now, in order for us to get D alone, we just have to simply do the inverse. Do y'all remember inverse? Inverse of multiplication. Instead of multiplying, you would what? Divide by whatever's being multiplied. So in this case, B and T are multiplied by the D. They are multiplied with D. So to get D by itself, you have to divide B and T from both sides. And if you get a multiplication, or as a matter of fact, if you get multiple choice answers, make sure you can look at the answers and then see what you can eliminate. Like in this case, C can be eliminated because it's still being multiplied. You know what I mean? Like they multiplied B and T to the V. So you already know that's wrong. You know what I'm saying? It can only be divided to move to the other side of the equation. So basically, you're looking for a D, as in David, equals a V over BT. Now, all of these look a little confusing, but D is definitely saying that. And we just wanted to get D by itself. V over BT. And if you got that answer, good job. You ready? And the next question can be just as tricky. One thing I really want you to focus on is the number 1. Like, you don't have to have a 1 there, but you can definitely have a 1 there. There can be a 1 with the B. There could be a 1 with the M. So there is 1B equals 1H, 1M divided by 2. B equals 1HM over 2. And you can put a 1 in front of the B, it's still the same. B equals 1B. 1H still equals H. It's the same thing. 1M equals M. And so I have a B equals 1HM over 2. Don't forget we're solving. Don't forget we're solving for H, which means we just have to get H by itself. So we take it and we invert. We're looking for the inverse of this 1HM divided by 2. The only way to move that divided by 2 over is to multiply by 2. So now we have a 2B equals 1HM or 1M. You know what I'm saying? 2B equals 1H, 1M. That's the same thing. It's the same if you were to say 2B equals HM. You don't need a 1 in front of either one. I'm going to show you. So we'll divide by the M. 2B divided by M equals H. Like, you don't need that 1. That 1 is nothing. 2B divided by M equals H. The absolute value of negative 14 is 14. Okay, so that has to be on some true false, because you're either going to say, hey, that's true, or that's false. It's like that. That's it. The absolute value of negative 14, which means you put the brackets on, is 14. When you take the brackets off, there is no negative sign, right? So we would say that is true. When brackets are removed, everything inside becomes positive. Everything inside the brackets becomes positive. So, yeah, that one is pretty simple, pretty easy. But if you were to look at it with the brackets on, like say there were the brackets and it had negative 14 and then it had the equal sign and the number 14, you would have to actually go and look at your notes every now and then just to see, okay, what? Let me make sure this negative 14 is supposed to come out positive out of absolute. And yes, absolute means that it is absolutely there. You can't absolutely see negative 13 numbers, 13 of anything. You can't see the negative. It's not tangible. Okay, the next problem is negative 3 plus, in parentheses, a negative 14. So I have a negative 3 plus a negative 14. The easiest way to do that, you're looking at multiple choice, go ahead and eliminate whatever you feel doesn't belong with these answers. So in this case, we'll go ahead and remove 42, negative 42, and 11. 11 is positive. Nothing about this up here says positive. Negative 13, negative 3 minus 14 is a negative 17. Your answer is C, negative 17. If you did not have these multiple choice you would have to actually just go in and just go ahead and subtract and multiply it or whatever you got to do. It's parentheses, so we take the parentheses out first, the order of operations. To get rid of the parentheses, you have to make that a minus 14. A plus a negative 14 changes it to a minus 14. Okay, so we have a 20 minus parentheses negative 6. So that is 20 minus a negative 6. And I know you know that minus a negative means plus. It means you add it. You change the negative and the negative to positive. So it is 20 plus 6. And yes, 20 plus 6 is 26. If that's kind of hard, if it's not that easy for you to just see, go ahead and eliminate the ones that make no sense, like 20 minus a minus 6. There's no way it could be 120, so you would eliminate D. B can't be right because it's negative. Like 20 minus 6 still wouldn't be a negative. If you were to take 20 minus 6 and say 20 minus 6 is 14, but see, since you know that it can't be the negative 14, it can't even be the positive 14 because it doesn't say 20 minus 6, right? It says 20 minus a negative 6. So that might as well be 20 plus 6. Your answer is 26. C. Luckily, we have this multiple choice, but if you did not have this multiple choice, you would have to change both of the signs to positive and go ahead and solve. 26 is the solution. Okay, now we get into the meat and potatoes of the algebra class. And again, it's pretty much the same thing. You just combine the like terms. It's not looking for a solution. It's not looking for a final answer. It's not asking you to solve for X, solve for Y, and or Z. It's just saying, hey, put all the ones that are alike together. All the X's, all the Y's, all the Z's. Yes, and I put the X's together, which gave me a 3X minus a 4X. I put the Y's together, minus 2Y plus 2Y minus 5Y. I put the Z's together, plus 3Z plus 2Z. Now, 3X minus 4X is minus X. And that's how you can go in and erase something, scratch something, or, eliminate anything that doesn't say negative X first. Then I get down to the next, it says minus 2Y plus 2Y. That's eliminated. Minus 5Y. So I have a minus X minus a 5Y. Anything that doesn't say that has to go. Last but not least, plus 3Z plus 2Z is a plus 5Z. So I have a minus X, a negative 5Y, a positive 5Z. And that's my answer. Negative X minus 5Y plus 5Z. Okay, now to the next one. It says 6X minus 10 equals 4, parentheses, X plus 3, close parentheses. So I have 6X minus 10 equals 4X, 4 times X plus 3. 4 times X plus 3. So remember the order of operations. It says parentheses first. So we'll just go ahead and distribute that 4 into both the X and the 3. So that is 4 times X plus 4 times 3. So on that right side, we'll have 12X. We'll have 4X. Plus 12. You gotta be catching that. You gotta make sure you are focused and say, okay, I'm gonna write down 4X plus 12 on the right side of this equal sign. 6X minus 10 on the other side. And now it's just a matter of combining like terms. You get all the X's to one side, the coefficients to one side, and the constants to the other side. I like my X on the left side. I like for the final answer to say X equals whatever it's going to equal. So I go back and I say, okay, 6X minus that 4x that's on the other side because I moved it over here to the left side. 6x minus 4x. And I moved that 10 over to the right. And since that is a minus, we're going to plus. It's going to be added to the other side. So I have 12 plus 10, right? Right? I have 12 plus 10. So on this side, I have a 2x. On the other side, I should have 22. Now, before I go any further, before I get to the 2x equals 22 and then x equals 11, sometimes if you have these multiple choice answers and you don't really feel like going through all of that, you can just go ahead and plug the answers into the problems at the top for the solutions. You know what I mean? Like you can take that 10, say x equals 10, and we put a 10 everywhere we see an x at the top. So that is 6 times 10 minus 10. So that's 60 minus 10. This side is 50, right? And this side is 4 times 10 plus 3. So with that 10 plus 3, we can go ahead and say, you know what? 4 times 13 is more than this 50 over here, right? It's gonna be like right at 52 just on GP. But if you go and put this 11 in there, think about that. 11 plus 3 is 14 times 4 is 16, 1, 56. Yes, now this 11 times 6 is 66 minus 10 is 56. 56 equals 56, right? 56 equals 56. Now you can do that. That's just me plugging in and play. I plugged in a 10. It didn't make this side equal that side. I plugged in 11, and 56 equals the other side, 56. And you can do it like that. That may take longer if you don't know okay, just go ahead and combine like terms and then find the value for x and get it. That's it. X equals 11. Okay, so this next one is actually giving you the value of x, or it's actually substituting x for a number. And let's say that number is 5. And let's just say that just represents dollar bills. If x equals $5 bills, what is the value of 6x plus 2x minus x? And all you're doing is just plugging a 5 in everywhere you see an x. If x equals 5, what is the value of 6 times 5 plus 2 times 5 minus 5? 6x plus 2x minus 5. So I have 30 plus 10 is 40 minus 5, right? Like before I even get to any multiple choice, I can already see that this is 30 plus 10. Yes, and once I got 30 plus 10 is 40 minus 5 is 35. You know what I'm saying? I kind of figured that out before I even saw the multiple choice answers. But looking at the multiple choice answers, it's probably best that I go ahead and try to solve for it instead of guessing, because these numbers are so close together, 25, 30, 35, 40. The answer could easily be either one of these if I get let's say I get negative wrong, I don't switch the sign, or if this 5 had a negative in front of it, it changes the entire answer. So you kind of want to watch your numbers and your signs and your answers, period. No, I didn't come here to tell you that, oh, this is easy, this is simple, you'll get it as soon as you listen to this. Like, no, you're gonna have to still grab you a pen, a piece of paper, a pencil, whatever it is that you use to write with, whatever you are using to learn with. You're gonna have to go and use that. You're gonna have to go and study that. Don't just let this be the only time that you see my presentation or hear my voice. You may have to come back sometime within the next couple of weeks and say, hey, I just need that one, this one little piece, man. He had this one question. It said, if 10 is separated into two parts, one of which is y, represent the second part. And I just don't get it. I don't understand that. And if you can't just look at that and say, okay, x plus y is 10, right? It's separated into two parts. The two parts are the x and y. When it comes together, it is 10. So that is the equal sign. X plus y is 10. If 1 represents the y, then go ahead and represent the second. And that should be 10 minus that y, right? Represents x. 10 minus y equals x. I'm not trying to make it seem like this should be simple for you. You should know this. No, it's just that I've been working on this for so long that it's kind of simple to me. So I'm understanding that if 10 is separated into two parts, one part is x, one part is y. If they have the y and we're trying to find the x, then the x equals 10 minus y. That is the remainder. I think you're actually doing a great job so far. You've made it this far in the presentation. Just a few more questions left, man, and I'll, see what it is I can help you out with, help you remember. See if you can recall some of this a lot faster than you could before we started today. See if you kind of understand algebra a little more than you did before you started. I would appreciate any feedback. I would even appreciate some negative feedback if I'm not talking loud enough, I'm not talking enough, I'm not expressing or expanding on certain topics. You want me to kind of dig a little deeper into it. Yes, I can definitely do that as well. I just kind of want to keep it algebra because we're in the algebra tutorial. This is pretty much a crash course, and it's my very first presentation doing it this way. I'm usually like either over the phone, in person, or doing like a Zoom with someone. This is my first time actually presenting it with this Google Slides, man. This is awesome. I'm loving it. This is my way of keeping myself safe and keeping you safe as well, and reaching as many people as possible. So yes, if 10 is separated into two parts, one of which is y, represent the second part. That second part would have to be 10 minus y equals x. 10 minus y, c. Final answer.